Good evening. I'm Tarek Patel.
And I'm Randy Rosenblum. And this is SoCal Prep Report. 15 years. We'll be back next season, but this is our final show for this 2024-25 calendar year in prep sports. What a year we've had. We're going to go over the final games that were played Saturday in softball and baseball, and we'll have a little year in review. Tarek's been a fun season.
It always is. It gets a little long in the spring, right? You know, football, it's kind of like a drink of water out of a fire hydrant the prep year, right? You get the football, you get the hoops, and then it slows down a little bit for baseball, but it speeds up at the end for the CIF championships, and everyone's trying to sprint to the end, no pun intended, with track and field.
It wasn't a long year for St. John Bosco. It was a successful year for the Braves in baseball. They win the regional championship 4-0 over Patrick Henry of San Diego. James Clark, great day at the plate, a double and a triple. And how about Jack Champlin, that relief pitcher that saved 5 games in the playoffs, including the final?
Yeah, I think one of the more fun things in any sport, any level, is parity. And so with baseball, you know, it's tough in those playoffs. You have to show your best day on any given day, and anyone can beat anybody on any given day. So St. John Bosco to win the Trinity League and Andy Rojo to win the Division I final, pretty special.
Yeah, and then go on and win the regional. What a year it has been for the Braves in baseball, the best year in the school's history. All right, let's take a look at the next division. This is a division that was won by Rancho Bernardo, D2, 2-1 over Point Loma. Hugo Gonzalez was the star, 3 hits, and a number 8 seed wins it all.
Again, more parity, and we're seeing it in the regional finals. And look, people have to remember, it's a long year. You got high school athletes that start school in the middle of August, and they're, you know, especially baseball year round, and you're still playing in June while school's out, you know, senioritis onset. So to stick through it, get these coaches to get these players to lock in, win one more crown before the end of the year is pretty good.
Okay, we're seeing some teams from outside the area have success, not all SoCal teams, and we're going to see that here in D3. University City over Mount Carmel, 3-1. Jaden Parker with the key hit, a 2-run double late in the game to win it.
Yeah, I think that's another reason why the regionals have some appeal, is because you see matchups you wouldn't otherwise see with the cross-sectional type stuff. Again, the big downer and why so many teams opt out is because there's no state championships, so I think they need to shore that up. But to be a Southern California regional champion, it's a great way to end the year.
D4, Ridgeview over Banning. This was a tight one, 1-0. You got to love it for Banning, though. Yep. They had a great year out of the LA City section. Runner-up in D1 to Carson. They lost to the Colts 3-1 at Dodger Stadium. They lose here, really a heartbreaking game. Joel Gutierrez, a 3-hitter for Ridgeview.
Yeah, good representation for the city, right? Banning. So not a city section, not a section that always gets love or highlighted nowadays. I know historically it's one of the best maybe in the country for sure in California, but nowadays with the southern section at Rule, with the talent, it's good to see Banning finish the year in the final game.
And the final baseball game of the season for us that we'll cover is Pioneer getting the victory over Corcoran from up north in the regional D5 final.
Let's not forget, Randy, correct?
Yep.
Pioneer, okay, you know where
I know where you're going.
Yeah, you know, Pioneer was up 6-0 in the CIF final. You're thinking they got this thing in the bag, and they end up losing to Fillmore. So kudos to that coaching staff and the senior leadership on that team to think, hey, man, let's rally and get a trophy to vouch for this season we had. So kudos to that team.
That might have been my best setup to you all season long.
Hey, man, we finally got one.
We got one good. All right, speaking of good, Seth Hernandez, the great pitcher from Corona, wins the Gatorade State Player of the Year last week. He backs it up this week with the Gatorade National Player of the Year. Congratulations to Seth. Let's find out a little bit more about Seth Hernandez, who's likely to be a very high draft pick in July.
Seth Hernandez has an ideal projectable 6'4" pitcher's frame with the athleticism teams love to see from young power arms. Always on time with an online and loose delivery, Hernandez has big stuff and a feel for all 4 of his pitches. While he touched triple digits at the area code games, he typically sits in the mid-90s, touching 97 to 98 miles per hour. His best secondary offering is his changeup, and it's plus right now, thrown with a lot of confidence and missing bats with it thanks to its good action and how it plays off of his fastball playing well. His curve, a true 12-6 spike curveball, has a chance to be plus with hard, tight, and late action to it, sometimes registering RPMs in the 3,000 range. He started featuring a harder slider more on the summer showcase circuit. In addition to his pure stuff, Hernandez does a solid job of finding the zone, especially considering his age and power stuff. Committed to Vanderbilt, he gets very high marks for his work ethic, showing the ability to make adjustments and corrections to put himself in position to be one of the first pitchers taken in the 2025 draft.
We've had a lot of great pitchers, and I know Hernandez hits, that come out of Southern California that are playing really well in Major League Baseball. But this guy, Seth Hernandez, could be as good as anybody we've ever seen out of this area.
At the high school level, it's going to be hard to find someone better than Seth Hernandez, and especially what he's put together. Remember, 18-0 up until that loss to Bosco. So you're talking about a kid that pitched 19-1 for his career. It's pretty impressive. He only did that in 2 years. I believe he was homeschooled his freshman and sophomore year of high school. And then not to mention, he impacts the game from the plate, too. The guy's pretty special. So you're thinking about a prospect that, you know, everyone's thinking maybe the Angels will get him at number 2. I mean, that's how high we're talking. He's for sure going to get drafted top 5. And I'm pretty sure he's going to be a pitcher, but he can do both, and he's an impressive prospect.
Angels, listen to him. You need a local product. You need a new hero.
Yeah, why not?
Why not Seth Hernandez? All right, let's talk softball. El Medina had a great year in the southern section, but they come up short against Mater Dei of San Diego. It's actually Chula Vista. 13-3, a kind of disappointment here. I thought El Medina might win this, but again, they were runner-up in the section to Norco, and now they fall to Mater Dei.
Couple things here. I think about Norco bowing out of the regionals, leaving way for El Medina to make a run, and then I think about a San Diego section team in a final sticking it to a southern section team. So a lot of elements there, so good for Mater Dei to get it done.
All right, let's zip through some of these other state regional softball games. The next division, as you can see, is D2, East Lake 2, Christian of El Cajon 1. Just looking at this, it's 12 innings. That's the startling aspect of that game.
Hey, it's the final game of the year, and again, like I mentioned earlier, it's a long season. So to go 12 and find the want to get one extra run, it was probably a special way for that team to end its year.
Here's a city section school that went all the way to the finals, but fell to Point Loma. Good game, but not quite enough for Legacy. 4-1 in D3.
Yeah, another impressive final. Let's not forget. These are teams scratching and clawing for anything. And you never know. In the regionals, sometimes these coaches, they come up with different strategies. Maybe they play players they haven't played all year long. You know, there's always different elements to these final games of the year.
D4, Wood Lake over Pioneer Valley. Again, these are teams from outside the area, but again, they're obviously competitive, strong teams, and they win by 1. In the final game, D5, and again, I'm not familiar with Orcutt Academy.
No.
They're from up north, 6 over Rancho Mirage. We know they're from the Palm Springs area. 6-1 for Orcutt Academy.
I don't know anything about Orcutt Academy. not going to pretend. I got nothing. I got nothing in the back pocket for that one.
Well, we'd have to look high, wide, and handsome to find someone who does know a lot about Orcutt Academy in Southern California. All right, it's time now to really take a look at the year in review. This is the final day. We're going to have to talk about it for a couple months. So we'll start with prep football, and you got to start in the southern section, Division I. Mater Dei going 13-0, beating St. John Bosco 31-24 in the final. They ripped everyone until they got to Bosco. Bosco at least was competitive, and then Mater Dei went on to win the state title.
And let's not forget, the more impressive, well, not more impressive, but just as equally impressive as they were under new leadership in Raul Lara, who came in after Frank McManus. You know, that thing kind of blew up. Now, Frank McManus on the field got the Monarchs where they needed to go, national champs, the whole 9 yards. But Raul Lara took over, discipline, and that was impressive to me to see, is how he was talking about the discipline, and then you saw it on the field. So congrats to Raul Lara, another national championship for Mater Dei football.
What I enjoyed was the schedule. I mean, Mater Dei didn't avoid anyone.
That too.
They were not alluding to anyone. They were playing all the top teams. They played Gorman up from Las Vegas, who's a great team. They came down here to play Mater Dei and whipped them pretty handily. They knocked off Centennial a couple times. They knocked off Bosco twice. The schedule was immense, and they met it.
Yeah, I think you actually gave me the idea. I wrote a column about how, wait a minute, we got to look at this Mater Dei team. This could be one of the best because of the schedule. They beat St. Francis out of Maryland, too, national program. So not only did they run through people, but they did it, at the highest level. So, again, kudos to the Monarchs.
And their defense was phenomenal. I mean, they had like 5 shutouts. They were brilliant.
It wouldn't be surprising to look back on that team maybe half a dozen years from now and see at least a handful of guys playing on Sundays.
Let's talk about a couple of them. Jordan Davison, the running back, well over 1,000 yards. Raul Lara is a little bit more conservative. He's not as wide open as some of the other coaches. Great defense, great ball carrier. He needs one great rusher, and he got it from Jordan Davison, who gave him a great ground game.
Yeah, Jordan Davison was a good combination of speed, but really the power and the reliability. You're talking about a guy that maybe even on Saturdays could carry the ball 25, 30 times a game, if that's so that's what the coach wants to do.
And the quarterback, Dash. You got to love a guy by the name of Dash. Dash Byerly transferred in, and he was really terrific in his senior year.
More impressive. I think that actually might be the most impressive part, too, is looking for a quarterback and don't have one, so you get a transfer that comes in and meshes well. Now, a lot of talent, so that makes life a little bit easier, but you think about a young kid, 17, 18 years old, coming into Mater Dei and thinks, all right, I'm going to go win the Super Bowl in the first week of the season. He was not like that at all. I don't think he threw an interception until the very end of the year. I think he had literally one interception the whole year. So to be conservative, to dial in some maturity at Mater Dei is impressive.
And he's on his way to the University of Washington. Dash Byerly, and we wish him well there. Another team I do want to mention from the southern section is Newberry Park.
Yeah.
They won the D2. That was a stretch. They weren't supposed to go up to Division II. They end up winning it, going 14-1. Their quarterback, Brady Smigel, was phenomenal. Shane Rosenthal, the receiver. What a magical year for the Panthers.
I mean, that's like one of my teams that I had really enjoyed covering all year long. And more impressively was in Division II, no one thought they were going to win it, and they did. So Brady Smigel, Rosenthal, like you mentioned, and Coach Joe Smigel, they get the job done. So kudos to the Panthers.
Smigel's going to Michigan. Rosenthal headed to UCLA. Although both of them were going to attend other schools and then change their commitment, but they wind up at some very legendary programs. All right, let's turn our attention to the LA City section. This one's a little odd. Narbonne scores 75 points, clobber San Pedro in the final, but then they get the rug pulled. They're disqualified. It's vacated. Narbonne is no longer the LA City champion.
As a media member, it's always fun to have a little drama, and that was this story all year long. And if you're talking about a year in review, which is what we're doing, let's not forget Narbonne didn't play any league games. The Marine League coaches basically said, you know what, we know you're cheating, so we're not going to play you, which is one way to handle it. They end up going on winning the city final, and within months of raising that title, the city section finds what they need to and says, you're not our champion anymore. So quite the story, but listen, when you're cheating, it's not good.
So the open division in the LA City section in football this year vacated.
Vacated, yeah.
No champion. There is a champion in Southern Section flag football for the first time, and it was Orange Lutheran rallying to come back and beating Newport Harbor 20-18. This is the game that featured a quarterback by the name of McKenna Cook. She ended up throwing 3 touchdowns in the game. They were trailing most of the day, and they rallied to beat the Sailors. And Orange Lutheran ends up being the #1 flag girls football team in the country. And Cook, the poster child maybe for the sport.
No, she really is. She's already in like commercials and stuff. I think she just finished her sophomore year, so she's got 2 more years. She's a tremendous athlete. And I think of 2 things. I think about Rod Sherman, who's the football coach, who helped win the girls flag football championship. That's pretty cool. And I do think about McKenna Cook having 2 more years to maybe do it for 2 more years from Orange Lutheran. So a great pilot for year 1 for that sport here in the Southern section. It's going to continue to grow.
Year 1 in the Southern section, but it was year 2 in the LA City section. Their open division champion was also dramatic. It was Banning, which was down 12-0 at halftime
That's right.
against San Pedro, who was the favorite. San Pedro had beat them 3 times during the year. They play in the finals, they get the big lead, and Banning storms back to win it 18-12.
I don't think there's anything. It was like a minute and some change to go, 2 minutes down a couple scores, and they found a way to win the game. That's pretty remarkable. Congrats to that team. I forgot. Year in review. I forgot all about them.
You can't forget about Banning. I'm going to bring them up a few more times. The interesting factor there, though, for San Pedro, you got to feel bad for the Pirates. They lost the inaugural championship game, close game to Birmingham the year before. Now they fall after having the lead, being the favorite, and dropping it to Banning High School. Now it's time for Tarek's favorite segment every week on the show, Prep Basketball. We'll start with the Southern section. Eastvale Roosevelt winning the title in the highest division of the Southern section, knocking off Notre Dame of Sherman Oaks.
Yeah, this Roosevelt team, I call it the California Treble. They won the Southern Section Open, they won the Regional Open, and then they won the State Open, and it was all punched by Braden Burry scoring 44 points in the state final in NBA Arena. Saw it all with my own 2 eyes. What a tremendous player he was. Obviously, McDonald's All-American, and now heading to Arizona. So when you talk about the hotbed of talent in Southern California, he is one of the poster child. Seth Hernandez, McKenna Cook, Braden. I mean, the list goes on of the standouts that are right here in our backyard.
What I loved about Jaden Burry is he was not having the great divisional championship game. In the state, he had 44, and the finals was phenomenal. One of the great performances ever in the state. But he only had a couple points at a halftime against Notre Dame, but erupted in the second half for 17, and his team pulled away.
He'll go down in Roosevelt lore, Braden Burry's, for that performance, having 2 points in the first half and then really just making all the right plays. And yeah, he had 17. Okay, he finishes with 19, not a huge, but the box score. I mean, just a great floor game. He's such a good player. It'll be really fun to see his impact at the college level.
And I think he'll start immediately at Arizona.
Absolutely.
Okay. With a big smile.
Yeah.
There's no question.
That guy, he's there. He's going to be. He might be one of their guys next year.
Brady is going to be one of the guys. Speaking of the guys, in the LA City section, in their open division, it was Chatsworth and Westchester. But really, those are just the titles. It was Ariza against Arenas, which really brought back electricity to the LA City section.
I want to say there was about 2,000 people at LA Southwest College that night, and you got Taj Ariza, right? Trevor Ariza, his son. You got Elijah Arenas. And city section guys, their dads went at it. Now their sons are going at it, and for all the marbles. And Ariza played a fantastic game. Westchester won that championship that night, but remember, they played later in the regional, and Chatsworth got them back and ended up getting to the state final. So really impressive year for basketball in the city section.
And then, unfortunately, Arenas had that car accident. Knock on wood, he came out of it healthy and he's ready to go. He'll play at USC, but that was one of the scarier moments of the year.
No question. I think about 2-3 years ago when Bronny had cardiac arrest, oh my word, and then Arenas now with the Cybertruck, and he runs into a tree, and he's in a coma, but it's because he inhaled smoke. They put him in it. There was a lot of scary touch-and-go moments there, but he's fine. He's playing basketball. There's videos of him every day working out. He's fine.
Speaking of touch-and-go, then Ariza leaves Westchester. Next year, he's going to play for St. John Bosco.
Yeah, he'll be a standout senior. You're talking about a 5-star recruit that really can pick wherever he wants to go. So with St. John Bosco and what they have over there with Christian Collins and Brandon McCoy, you're talking about a top 5 nationally ranked team in the country.
So was Ontario Christian in girls basketball. In fact, for much of the year, they were number 1 in the country, and they won this section, beating Etiwanda in the final. Ontario Christian, a great, great year. They were led by young players. This is Tatiana Griffin, who had 29 points and 12 rebounds in the finals, and Kalina Smith, a sophomore, who was stupendous.
Well, the lead for Griffin is she just finished her freshman campaign. So really their most outstanding performer. Kalina Smith is their best player, and she's a sophomore, she'll be a junior. But their most outstanding performer throughout the postseason was a freshman. And so it just goes to show you maybe Ontario Christian's going to be the world beater for the next 3-4 years.
Although they just lost a player. Sydney Douglas transferred out.
That's true. So. They're still going to be really good.
Yeah, they'll be good. But they would have been number 1 in the country for sure had Sydney not transferred out to Centennial. I don't think there's any question about that. Let's talk about the girls' LA City section open division title. And this one was won by Hamilton, who was the best team all season long. Hamilton over Westchester, a league rival. And I looked down, and there are 2 names, and I got to know these girls, Jade Fort and Kennedy Curl, because they played in an all-star game, and I watched them play, went and chatted with them. These two girls hung around together. They lost in this all-star game I saw against the Southern section, but they held their own. These were two really good backcourt performers for the Yankees, and they led the team to the city championship.
Yeah, I think of all year long, if I remember correctly, there was really only a couple teams we thought, 2 or 3 teams, okay, these teams are going to meet in the city final, but we always knew, I think Hamilton had that edge. In fact, I think we were talking about how Hamilton might make some noise in the regional. They can knock off some Southern section teams because they've got talent, but nevertheless, they're city champs, and a great season for them.
Let's turn our attention to soccer. We'll start with the boys in the Southern section. Championship match by as a shutout. Jay Sarah won it 2-0. They were a dominant team. They played great defense. They beat Loyola by that 2-0 score. In fact, Jay Sarah allowed 10 goals all season.
Man, soccer is one of my closet favorite sports. We don't get to talk about it enough, but Jay Sarah, again, remember the playoff format in the Southern section also changed. They do what's like in the Champions League where they play one at home, one away, and you got to advance on aggregate score. So it's a little bit of a gauntlet to get to the final. So kudos to Jay Sarah.
Santa Margarita wins the girls' championship. Some goals scored. 4-2 over Santiago from Corona. A young lady by the name of Cora Fry. She's going to play for Tennessee. In fact, Santa Margarita had like 6-7 D1 players. But Cora Fry, on her way to Tennessee, 2 goals in the finals.
Santa Margarita is one of the SoCal juggernauts in girls soccer, so no surprise to see them lift the trophy.
Speaking of lifting the trophy, let's turn our attention to boys soccer in the LA City section. I know we're covering a lot of ground. El Camino Real, the Royals, just a great program every year. Gets by another great program, Birmingham, 2-1. This is a rivalry match, and this time the Royals won it.
Every year it's these two in the final. It's a surprise. I want to say South High School won one a couple of years ago, or it was East. Someone different won, and it was like a breath of fresh air to see a different team win the City Boys Soccer Championship. Birmingham and El Camino Real always going at it. Ian Cogan, great coach at ECR, he gets it done.
Granada Hills won the girls 3-1 over Cleveland. Again, they're 2 West Valley League teams. Granada, El Camino has been the best girls soccer program in the LA City section. I know their boys won it, but this time Granada Hills able to get through El Camino in the league, get through them in the playoffs, and knock off the other rival from Cleveland out of that West Valley, and GH gets the championship.
Yeah, the Highlanders, one of the charter schools, and it just always seems like there's someone from the Valley generally making a move on that city final.
Let's talk boys volleyball quickly. We mentioned this last week. Miracosta, the reason I want to bring them up, not only did they win the Southern California Championship over Huntington Beach, both in the division and the regional, then they went on and won the state championship. They're the #1 team in the country. Yeah. Great year for Miracosta. You're #1 in the country. You're getting mentioned on a year in review.
Yeah, it's tremendous. Another example, I don't know, volleyball, somewhat of a niche sport, especially for boys, not so much for girls, but for boys, you're thinking hoops, you're thinking baseball, football, and so for volleyball to be such a standout performer out here in Southern California, another example of why there's so much talent here in our backyard.
Track and field, Servite won the state championship. They were great with their individual sprinters. Benjamin Harris was the guy. Long Beach Wilson was the strongest girls team in Southern California. And a young lady by the name of Clara Adams with her fire extinguisher wins the state title. She's from Salinas up north Salinas High School, and they took away the title in the 400. And that is going to bring us up to our counterpoint. Let's throw that up there for now so you know what we're going to watch. All right, let's talk point, counterpoint. My subject matter today, are we having enough fun in high school sports? I thought they should have let her get away with it. Yeah. Who cares if she used the fire extinguisher? Point, counterpoint. Tarek, you're on. Should we have more fun in prep sports?
I'm all about being able to let the kids celebrate, whether it be organized, like we mentioned it before the show. You want to spike the ball, go for it. You want to dance with your buddies, cool. You want to dunk the ball through the field goal post, whatever the case may be. You want to throw up a little sign after you hit a 3, cool. What I do think is a line that needs to be drawn is taunting. I don't think there's any place for it, especially with teenagers. This young lady at the track and field didn't go up to anybody. She did it in her own space. She's having a little fun. It's literally the last event of the year. To me, I agree with you. That needs to, you got to let that fun go as long as you're not impacting other competitors.
We need to have more fun in life. She should have not had the 400 meters taken away and the 200 meters taken away. bunch of old men running the track and field meet. Get a life. I know you're CIF officials. You don't have to pull the plug on a young lady who met her dream. We need more fun. We need to be able to slam the football down in football and celebration, as long as you don't taunt. You can jump over the goalpost and throw the football down. All good there. If you slam dunk and hang on to the rim, I'm good there. Let's have more fun. That's my point on point counterpoint.
Randy, have you ever jumped high enough to hang on a rim?
No, I know you can dunk, though.
Okay,
I can't
curious.
dunk.
You don't know what it feels like. It's it's nice to be up there sometimes.
No. Maybe if it's on the ground, I might be able
toddler.
to do it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
Toddler dunk. I like that. All right, who's your athlete of the year?
For me, I think, man, you put me on the spot. Oh, Braden Burries. Braden Burries, we talked about this. I'm like, man, I'm supposed to have an answer ready to go. For me, it's Braden Burries. I think given nowadays, not to go into full dissection mode, but there's a lot of kids. A.J. DeBonsa is the #1 kid in the country. He leaves a regular high school to go to a prep school. Why? Because there's money floating around for these high school athletes. He could have easily gone to a prep school. He decides to stay home at a public school, and they win everything. For me, it's Braden Burries.
Team of the year.
I'm going to go Newbury Park. I'm going to go those Newbury Park Panthers. Despite having a little bit of talent for sure with Smigel and Rosenthal, the unexpected aspect of them getting to that D2 final and beating Marietta Valley in Marietta Valley and doing it on a comeback route, impressive to me. Team of the year for me.
Team of the year for me is Carson High School in baseball, coming from 0-5 and 1-9 in their record to beat their rival Banning at Dodger Stadium in D1. Carson Colts for me. Coach of the year.
I got to give it to Andy Rojo. That St. John Bosco coach, man. First ever time they've won a CAF title in that program. And St. John Bosco, you're talking about really good athletics, football program. It's a well-known program. Never won a baseball championship, and they do it, and at the highest level. And not only do they do it at the highest level, they knock off Corona High School, and they beat Seth Hernandez.
My shout out for player of the year, and I didn't mention it before, Alina Argueta from Banning High School in the city leads her team to a D2 basketball title over San Fernando and the flag football championship in the open division. She was great. Alina Argueta.
Your coach of the year, do you have one?
Coach of the year, maybe Alyssa Lee at El Camino Royale. She's won volleyball championships on all of them, and indoor, outdoor, all of that. But what were our top 10 moments this year? Let's find out. Golden high school moments. What do you think of the shirt, huh? Is it a rooster? Is it a chicken? We're going casual.
Is it a rooster? Is it a chicken?
I don't know what it is. We're going on a break. We're going to be gone for a couple months. Tarek, I like your hat.
Got the putter out. I'm ready to play some golf. Been at it already since March, since the basketball championships finished. So
you look like you're ready to
looking to play some more,
Open.
get out there, get some steps in, get my walker out there, have a little fun. go on
Impressive.
vacation, relax.
What do you shoot? Are you a scratch golfer?
I shot a 78 a couple weeks ago.
Did you
Pretty
really?
Good. Pretty
Well,
good.
you'll have time.
Had my
to-
first eagle too.
Got an eagle. The eagle has landed for Tarek. All right, so we're done. That's it. We'll see you late August, early September when we have the football season. So for Tarek, I'm Randy.
My final toss.
We got Gio and Larry. Thank you.
yeah,
We have
yeah.
guests in house.
Yeah.
We thank everyone this year. We'll see you next season right here on SoCal Prep Report. Goodbye, everybody. His final toss of the year. Right on. You have to come up with a different
No, I think I like it. 2 papers.
Once more than